Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Gucci has hit us with a new Guilty flanker, and it comes in a little bitty tiny baby bottle. And you know what that means? It's friggin' expensive. Because brands have wised up. It used to be that they would put the Elixir name on a fragrance and then just charge you more. Step 1, Elixir. Step 2, tiny bottle. Step 3, Step 4, profit! Actually, in this circumstance, I guess step 3 wouldn't have to be question marks. You could just say, charge a whole friggin' lot of money. And then step 4 would be profit. But brands have wised up. They don't have to put the Elixir name on it anymore, they realize. They can just put any old name on it. L'Exclusif with Bleu de Chanel, or here, Absolu de Parfum. And then you can just charge more. It's great. It's not dystopian at all. So like I said, this is the new Guilty flanker in a great 60 ml size bottle, very reminiscent of the Elixir bottle, Gucci Guilty Elixir. You see how that works. Absolu de Parfum, an evolution of the Elixir. $195 for 60 mils. That is the price on this new one right here. And in today's video, we're gonna be talking about how good it is, or bad it is, or why I can't catch a box. Failed, I have. And while this has not yet made its way to discounters, eventually it will. And when it does, here are some codes you can use to save yourself money across a bunch of different discounters, including Gift Express, Fragflex, JOMASHOP, the Perfume Box, and more. So anytime you shop at those stores, use those codes, save yourself a little money. Let's go ahead and start, as always, by taking a look at that presentation. First, the box. You have on the front the name of the fragrance, name of the house, size, and concentration. It is a parfum, or according to the box, I guess, an Absolu de Parfum, 60 ml, 2 ounces. Nothing up top, nothing on the sides. On the back, your ingredient information. And then on the bottom, your batch code and barcode. And a QR code. The batch code, 5059. And here we have the bottle, same style as the original Guilty Elixir. It has a similar coloration at the bottom and a gradient that gets darker towards the top. You also have the name of the fragrance on the front there, Absolu de Parfum. On top of the cap, you have Gucci. There's a sticker on the bottom of the bottle which has your batch code, and the cap does click into place. As always, what do you say we go ahead and do a couple sprays? Here we go. Nice. It really feels like at this point that lots of different brands are kind of tickling that $200 price point. You know, $195, $190, trying to get real close. And I know that within a year or two, most of these fragrances at that price point are going to be right at 200 or 205. Quietly, they will be bumped up, and before long, designer fragrances, at least at the higher end of designer lines, will be over 200 bucks, which is kind of insane. All right, let's start talking Guilty Absolu de Parfum, how it smells. It opens up with a creamy almond that's warm, enveloping right off the bat as soon as you spray it on. And also a little orange blossom, which it's going to have in common with Guilty Elixir. Go figure. That is one of the main notes that you pick up in Guilty Elixir, so to have that come through quite clearly in the opening with this one lets you know right away that even though it doesn't have Elixir in the name, Absolu de Parfum is in essence a flanker of Guilty Elixir. Which, yeah, I know, it's kind of obvious at this point, you know, similar color schemes down here, same bottle style, all that stuff. But when this was first announced, it wasn't announced as a direct follow-up to this. It was announced as its own thing. But now that I have it, now that I've worn it, yes, there are some strong similarities between the two, which we'll get into more as we go along. Now, even though you do pick that orange blossom up in Absolu de Parfum, it's not the exact same as Guilty Elixir. There are some differences in how that note comes across. It's richer, a little bit denser, a little heavier in Absolu de Parfum. It's not as bright and not as floral forward, if that makes sense, as in Guilty Elixir. You also get a nice boozy rum note that cuts through Absolu de Parfum, adds some additional warmth, some additional sweetness, some additional richness to the scent profile. And it comes across initially off the top almost like a little bit of citrus zest marinated in rum. You also have this slightly leathery, resinous backbone that you can pick up in the opening of Guilty Absolu de Parfum, which is going to help set it apart even more from Guilty Elixir. Although I will say that that kind of leathery vibe that you pick up is subtle in the initial opening when you first spray this on. It's not like super strong. It's not smacking you across the face or anything like that. Smacking you, asking you for the gabagool. That's not going on. There is a slight kind of restrained bitterness off the top with this one, with Absolu de Parfum, probably coming from that almond, but it softens up really quickly, so it's not anything you have to really worry about. You know, it doesn't linger for a long time. And the best way to think about Absolu de Parfum in the opening is comparing it to Guilty Elixir. Taking Guilty Elixir, making it richer, making it warmer, making it a little denser, more textured, but with less of a floral sparkle to it, with that rich, boozy sweetness warming up the whole composition. In the mid, Absolu de Parfum carries through that orange blossom. It lingers into the mid, but it starts to fade into the background a bit. So whereas in Guilty Elixir, it kind of stays right at the forefront of the fragrance, makes itself known for much longer, here it starts to kind of fade and step back. And that orange blossom in Absolu de Parfum takes on like a slight, almost waxiness in comparison to Guilty Elixir side by side. It's not as fresh, it's not as clean smelling as in Guilty Elixir. Meanwhile, in Absolu de Parfum, you get the tonka, you get the vanilla, and those notes start coming up and making themselves known. They start being much more prominent in the fragrance itself. You get more of that type of sweetness that comes through. And the vanilla is not a sugary vanilla. It's not that type, you know, it's not like a sugar cookie or anything like that. Instead, it's warm, it's resinous, semi-spiced tonka vibe, and then almost a sweet woodiness lingering behind the vanilla and the tonka. The leather note in here stays smooth, elegant, never ventures into animalic territory, rough around the edges territory, nothing like that. And it's also subtle in a way. That leather never really comes up in an aggressive way in the opening or the mid. It's just an elegant supporting player to the fragrance, essentially. Gives it a little bit more of that evening sort of vibe. The rum note also stays through into the mid, just kind of bubbling there under the surface. And compared to the Elixir, it's almost like taking that DNA, that style, and just dipping it into amber and letting it marinate overnight. This one is a little softer around the edges, a little bit rounder overall in how it smells. Also a little bit more refined, I would say, compared to Elixir. The Elixir is a little more zesty, a little bit more jumpy, a little more zingy. It basically feels like they tried to take Elixir and just push it a little bit more toward fall and winter time, and a little bit more toward the evening rather than the day, while still kind of keeping the overall essence of what this is in here, if that makes sense. In the dry down, Absolu de Parfum fully embraces it, finally figures out who it is, what it's doing, what it wants to do, and embraces the vanilla, the tonka, the almond. Still warm, still classy, but now a little creamier and still smoother yet. And that almond does stick around a surprisingly long time in Absolu de Parfum. And of course, because of the almond note, it could remind you a little bit of heliotrope. So it does have that sort of floral vibe in it, much more prominently. It never becomes powdery or cloying off my skin, but it does keep that semi-sweet kind of vibe from the opening into the dry down. And in the dry down, that leather, again, kind of just hangs out in the back. It does not really make itself known that strongly, subtle the entire way through. It's there, but it's a bit player, and it kind of folds into the ambery resins and warm sweet notes that are in here. All right, let's talk performance. Guilty Elixir is really, really strong, so how does this one measure up? Well, Absolu de Parfum is also really, really strong. Above average projection, great longevity, it sticks around an eternity off my skin, but it's also versatile enough that you can wear it in multiple seasons. Like I said, it's gonna be more fall and winter, but you could pull it off early spring as well. Though I will say between these two, I think that Elixir is better suited for spring and definitely better suited for summer compared to Absolu de Parfum. But let's say springtime in the evening, this one, Absolu de Parfum, could work fantastically. Fall, winter, daytime, or evening, either one. It is definitely, though, that type of fragrance that has more of a luxurious kind of feel to it. So for some people, they may smell this and think, it's more of a formal situation fragrance or a special situation type of scent. But personally, I do think it's versatile enough to use in lots of different situations, just like Elixir over here. So I'd say you've already picked up on this, but Absolu de Parfum is going to be redundant if you already own Elixir if you're wanting something that doesn't have a whole lot of overlap. Now, this is kind of an evolution of Elixir in the sense that they have pushed it a little more toward fall and winter time. They have made it a little bit denser, a little richer, a little sweeter, all that stuff. All of that is true, but when you smell this, if you are familiar with Guilty Elixir, you'll know right away, yeah, it's kind of drawing from that same scent profile, right? So if you're looking to avoid any kind of overlap, any kind of redundancy, you don't need Absolu de Parfum because it does have a good amount of overlap with Elixir. That being said, if you like Guilty Elixir, but you wish that it were denser, warmer, a little bit more grown up, better suited for fall and winter time, that is exactly what this is. It's classy, it's rich, it's elevated, but it's also super wearable. And to me, smells awesome. This stuff is fantastic. Is it overpriced? Yes, but that doesn't stop it from smelling amazing, which it does. It lasts, it projects, and I actually prefer the changes in Absolu de Parfum over Guilty Elixir, which this one is also great, but I really like the little tweaks that they've done here. So at the end of the day, is it redundant? Kind of, yeah. Is it expensive? Yeah, it is. Does it last forever? Also yes. Does it smell great? Also yes. So depending on how important these different things are to you is probably how you'll approach the fragrance. If you're looking for a cheapie that crushes it for its price, that's not this. If you're looking for something that's completely unique, that doesn't tread common ground, that's not this. If you're looking for something that's very strong, elegant, and sexy, that is this. So that'll do it for me. Absolu de Parfum, which in essence is just a flanker of Elixir. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.